I get it, there's a ton of glossy pictures and slick videos promising the perfect fridge, but when you finally pull the doors open at home you sometimes find the interior layout cramped, the water dispenser sputters, or the energy bill spikes. I've spent the last few weeks walking through kitchens, watching families unload groceries, and reading the handful of real-world comments people leave after the hype dies down, just so I could help you avoid that moment of disappointment. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. What follows is a down-to-earth look at the Samsung RF32CG5B30SR Bespoke 30.5 cubic foot French door fridge, focusing on how it actually fits into everyday life, not just what the spec sheet says. First off, the biggest draw people point to is the sheer size. 30.5 cubic feet is a step up from the typical 25 cubic foot models you see in most apartments, and that extra space isn't just more room, it changes the way you organize. I watched a family of 5 unload a weekend grocery haul, and the adjustable shelves flexed easily to accommodate a large pizza box, a bulk bag of flour, and a couple of tall milk cartons all at once. The mega capacity claim isn't marketing fluff, it actually lets you keep a week's worth of meals visible, so you can see what you have and avoid the forgot about that chicken in the back scenario that leads to waste. That said, the size brings a trade-off. The fridge's footprint is 35.7 inches wide, 70.2 inches tall, and 30.4 inches deep, so you need a fairly generous kitchen layout. If you're living in a tight-fit studio, or a condo where the refrigerator sits between the stove and a narrow hallway, you'll probably have to sacrifice clearance for that extra storage. In the homes I visited, owners who had a dedicated kitchen island could slide the fridge in without a hitch, but those with a corner placement struggled with the swing of the French doors, especially when the freezer door opened against a wall. Speaking of doors, the French door design on this Samsung feels more like an elevated aesthetic than a functional upgrade. The 2 side doors open wide enough to let a full-size grocery bag slide in, which is a blessing when you're loading up after a market run. The bottom freezer drawer, however, is a bit shallower than you might expect for a unit of this size. I saw a couple of users trying to stash a bulk bag of frozen peas, and the bag just wouldn't sit flat, you end up folding it, or stacking smaller items on top, which can lead to uneven cooling if you're not careful. If you rely heavily on bulk frozen goods, you might want to rethink the layout, or keep the freezer stocked with more modestly sized packages. Now, let's talk about the water and ice dispenser. Samsung markets it as an external unit, which on paper means no need to open a door just to get a glass of water. In practice, the dispenser works reliably for chilled water, and the ice maker produces cube-shaped ice that's perfect for cocktails, or a quick chill for a baby bottle. The real test, though, is when the fridge sits in a busy household where kids are constantly pulling for ice. The dispenser lever is sturdy, but the ice chute can jam if you try to retrieve ice too quickly. One family I observed had to pause and let the ice settle before pulling a handful, otherwise the cubes would tumble back into the freezer. It's a small inconvenience, but worth noting if you need a high-volume ice output. Energy consumption is another hidden factor. The Bespoke line touts an eco rating, and during a quick glance at the energy guide label the annual estimate was roughly 500 kilowatt-hours. That's a modest increase over a standard 25 cubic foot model, but because the unit is larger, you're paying a bit more for the extra interior space. For most households, the difference won't break the bank, but if you're on a tight utility budget, you might want to compare the projected cost against a slightly smaller fridge that still meets your volume needs. Who should buy this fridge? If you're a family that does weekly meal planning, buys in bulk, or enjoys entertaining and needs that extra shelf real estate, the RF32CG5B30SR delivers exactly what you're looking for. The adjustable shelves, the wide side doors, and the external dispenser combine to make daily loading and unloading smoother. Home chefs who keep a lot of fresh produce in the fridge will also appreciate the flexible compartments that let you store tall vegetable bins without sacrificing other items. Who should skip it? Anyone living in a cramped kitchen, especially those with narrow aisles or tight corner placements, should think twice. The depth and door swing can be a real hassle in limited spaces. Also, if your frozen inventory is dominated by large, bulk packages, the shallower freezer drawer may become a source of frustration. And if you're a minimalist who prefers a sleek, low-profile appliance over a larger, feature-rich model, you might find the Bespoke's design a bit too big-ticket.